Hello there guys, my name is Mr. Yorkie's World, welcome back to the channel, and in today's video we are finally going to be doing a full flight video. We are with Atlas Air today, Atlas Air 8125 to be perfectly exact, and we're going to be flying the beautiful 747-400 freighter from Anchorage to Edmonton. It's been a while since I did any videos on the channel, so I do apologise. I've had endless amounts of things to do. I've been extremely busy, but nevertheless, we are in P3D version 5. We've got active sky. We've got the 747 running as well from PMDG. Let's get started. You'll have to excuse my voice today. I am a little bit groggy. I've only just woken up doing this commentary. This is some pre-recorded footage, so it's not actually doing a live commentary, but nevertheless, it's still a full flight video. So then, if we go into the cockpit, you can see we've got the parking brake set already. And I'm going to go over and just get up the fuel page as well. And we're going to configure the aircraft. So we can switch on the IRSs. And I'm going to go down and put some fuel information in now. So the total fuel we're going to be taking is 47,095 kilograms of fuel today. So we can stick that in there. With that, we can also switch on the fuel pumps. And we might as well go ahead and request clearance as well. We can set up the MCP.
Giant 8125 with ATIS request clearance.
8125, clear to destination airport via
We can set the auto brake to RTO now. I've already got the seatbelts and everything set, even though it's a cargo aircraft. So 7,000 on the initial. And let's just have a look at the departure runway. It should be runway 15. So let me get that up on EFB. And we can use that to calculate our taxi path to the runway from where we are now. So that's drawn a line for us. You can see that we're following Romeo there, all the way to runway 15. I am going to put the runway heading into the heading select as well.
1.9 Giant 8125.
And with that, we can go ahead and configure the route. We've already got a co-route set up from Pro-ATCX and SimBrief, combination of the two, so we can go to pause in it. So we are at Papa Alpha November Charlie. Not going to bother with the gate position because they hardly ever work. So PANC to CYEG is the co-route. Flight number I'm actually going to put in SY8125, and of course we're going to be departing from runway 15. So we can activate and execute, perf in it, we can calculate the weight, and our reserves today are going to be 4.9. I'm not sure what the cost index is for Atlas Air. I've not got the database in front of me, so I'm just going to put 30. Flight level 350 today, but we are going to be step climbing to 390 later on in the flight. And we're going to be using flap 20 for takeoff. We might as well select our departure as well. So flight plan information, the Ancho 9. Execute that. Check for any discontinuities, which there aren't any by the looks. No. And we can calculate the V-speeds. So 148 V2. And we can activate LNAV and VNAV at this stage as well. And as ever, what I like to do in the FMC is put some fixed rings in at 50, 100 and 150 mile radiuses around the destination airport. And then we can go back to the takeoff page on the first FMC and the legs one on the second FMC. Start up the APU now. And we can also set the transponder to XPDR.
TCAS test. Pass.
And that's all passed, that's good. So we look to be about right to start boarding now. Or should I say loading the aircraft. Quite a bit of cargo today. I really do like the way that P3D version 5 is working so far, it's absolutely fantastic. We're just waiting for the APU gens to come online. Of course these can take a little while, but look at the aircraft, absolutely gorgeous. The scenery is nice as well. Clouds, loving them, absolutely loving them. And we can see the FPS counter in the bottom right corner, 61 frames per second. So we can see the APU gens are available, we can switch over to those now. And it looks as if the rest of the cargo is arriving now. So, without further ado, we will wait while the cargo's been loaded, and I will catch up with you guys in just a few short minutes. Okay, so we can see the final set of cargo is being loaded onto the aircraft now. Again, quite a bit of cargo today. We're not massively heavy, but there's still quite a bit of cargo going onto the aircraft. I must say it's absolutely amazing to have this aircraft working in P3D version 5. Finally, PMDG updated it. I'm hoping that the next aircraft will be potentially the 777. I think that's the next one lined up to be updated to be compatible with version 5. And then after that we've got the NGXU, which will officially become compatible with P3D version 5. And at the time of making this video we have also got the A330 Professional from Aerosoft, which is officially compatible now, so that's quite exciting. We should be doing some flights in that pretty soon as well. Okay, so now the cargo's on the aircraft, we can think about closing some of these doors and preparing ourselves for pushback and start. Just going to use the handy close all button in the FMC. And if we look outside we should be able to see those doors very gradually, very slowly closing. They don't half take a while to close. So we can activate the beacon lights, both of them, set them to both. And I'm just going to wait until the doors are fully closed and then I'll go back into the FMC, disconnect the ground power like so. So remove, and we can think about switching on the hydraulics now and requesting push and start from ATC. That's the hydraulics. There we go.
Craft Giant 8125. Request startup and pushback.
GTI8125. Startup is approved.
Approved. Giant 8125.
And we can go and request startup and push from GSX as well. And there we can see the pushback vehicle. Got some new models in there as well, 3D models in GSX level 2. Again, GSX level 2 being another add-on which is now officially compatible with P3D version 5.
Hello, Captain. We're ready for pushback.
I do like the quick edit. You can actually define the actual taxi path, or pushback path even, which is helpful in case GSX doesn't actually recognise how to actually back the aircraft out of a specific gate, and of course be facing the right way and following the right lines. So it's pretty handy to be able to define that yourself. In fact, I've actually had to do that with this particular gate, with it being a cargo ramp, and it's a little bit different to other cargo ramps, so you'll see on the pushback that it's a little bit different, and it's a custom defined path. So there we go, it's come up. You can see option 2 is quick edit pushback, but I'm going to use the auto saved one that I did earlier. Parking brake released, and we can go ahead and start up the engines. Oops, didn't mean to do that one first. Fuel in. So now we can repeat the procedure with engines 1 and 2.
Set marking brakes.
Waiting your confirmation for good engine start.
Okay, so we need to confirm good engine start, which we will go ahead and do because it looks as if the engines have started successfully. So bring up GSX and confirm good engine start. And you will notice we've got a warning there on the display, fuel tank / engine. That's to do with a fuel imbalance, but that's perfectly fine. We've got that under control, or at least we will have later into the flight. So I'm going to cancel that warning. It's not actually that much of an imbalance. Everything's fine. We've got no lights showing. We can switch off the APU. And also packs 2 and 3 can come on now.
Unlocking gear.
We can set the flaps to 20.
Tow truck disconnected. Bypass bin removed.
And I will also go ahead and set the trim, which is 4.7 today. And then we can go ahead and have a look at those flaps extending again.
Left is clear. Right is clear.
Okay, so let's request taxi to the runway now.
Aircraft Giant 8125. Request taxi.
GTI8125, taxi via runway 15.
Via to runway 15. Giant 8125.
And again, if we look on EFB, we've just come from Romeo 9, and we're going to be following Romeo to runway 15. Just going to wait for the marshaller to get out of the way, and then we can set off. So it looks at a safe distance now. I'm going to release the parking brake, and we can make our way to the runway. Gorgeous view of the aircraft. Look at those clouds in the background as well. We are of course using the inbuilt True Sky feature, or enhanced atmospherics. I have noticed a bit of a delay in the texture loading, but that's something that I'm sure we can sort out in the config file at a later date. But for now, it's not something I'm majorly interested in solving. The rest of the simulator looks absolutely brilliant. So without further ado, a little bit of information about this flight. Again, we are with Atlas Air Flight 8125, which is a Boeing 747-400 freighter. Our call sign is Golf Tango India 8125, or Sierra Yankee 8125, from Anchorage to Edmonton. The flight time is approximately 3 hours and 14 minutes, and we're initially going to be flying at 350, step climbing to flight level 390. Now, the weather over Edmonton is not going to be very favourable. We're looking at between 15 and 25 knots headwind, which is variable as well, so it's going to be quite the challenge considering the fact that I've not flown this aircraft fully or done a full flight like this in quite some time. But nevertheless, without further ado, I will catch up with you guys in just a few moments when we are about ready to enter the threshold of runway 15.
GTI8125, contact tower on 118.3.
118.3 Giant 8125. Tower Giant 8125. Holding short of runway 15. Request departure.
GTI8125, line up runway 15.
Lining up runway 15. Giant 8125.
Okay, so we've been cleared to line up on runway 15. You can see the threshold there, or hold short line. Just confirming it says 15. And we're crossing over now, so I'm going to go ahead and configure the transponder, TA and RA, and of course the landing lights. For some bizarre reason, RAS seems to think this is runway 14, but as you can see, it is runway 15.
GTI8125, wind 360 at 0, runway 15, clear for takeoff, good flight.
Runway 15 clear for takeoff. Giant 8125.
Okay, so we're clear for takeoff. We can go ahead and spool up the engines a little bit. Start the clock. And toga. And here comes 80 knots. V1 and rotate. Positive rate. Gear up. Beautiful, beautiful departure there as the gear comes up. Lovely scenery.
Departure Giant 8125. With you, passing 800, 47,000.
Giant 8125, flying to...
And I'm just going to do a little bit of manual flight just for a few seconds here,
8125.
just to make this right turn.
Giant 8125, turn left, heading 050.
Turn left to heading 050. Giant 8125.
So these are actually the vectors to the first waypoint. Not sure why it's just said altimeter setting. That's RAS again, which appears to be playing up. We can go up and switch off the runway turn-offs, and the seatbelts and everything can go to auto. I'm just going to enable LNAV. Seems as though it's going to be following the right heading now at some point. Look at that view. Absolutely gorgeous. The tops of those mountains, the clouds, and the sky. This is true sky again. Flaps are on the way up. Right, so I'm going to go ahead and lock the gear, or switch it to the off position.
Giant 8125, flying to 15,000.
So 15,000 now on the altitude,
Giant 8125.
and you can see we're starting to follow the magenta line there as well. So I'm going to request direct to Yeska, just to simplify things a little bit.
Yankee Echo Sierra Kilo Alpha. Giant 8125.
Giant 8125, clear direct at YESKA intersection, turn left.
Okay, so we're already on LNAV and V now, so automatically we're now going to turn towards Yeska, which is the next waypoint.
Turn left.
So we skip all that vectoring and things like that.
5000. Continue home navigation. Giant 8125.
Lovely wing view there of the engines. So we've got 10,000 feet coming up, which will be the altitude that we switch off those landing lights. But look at that view Switch them off now. What an amazing view there. So if you're wondering what add-ons I've got, you can find a link to my add-on spreadsheet in the video description, and as ever, it will show what the current add-ons are that I'm using in the simulator.
Turn left, heading 0.
So as you can see, we've got a fuel imbalance now,
Turn left to heading 06.
but it actually isn't that much of an imbalance. I'll show you in a second. It's nothing to worry about at all. We are getting about 45 FPS, maybe between 40 and 50 I'd say now. And I am very, very impressed. The only problem I've got is there seems to be some sort of tearing or sort of pixelation effect at the top. But as you can see, that fuel imbalance is virtually not there. We don't have one. But back onto the tearing or sort of displacement of textures, if you will, at the very top of the screen. It's very unusual. I'm not sure why it does it. It doesn't do it on all the views. Sometimes it does. Like jagged edges, I would call it. But it's certainly not something to do with my monitor, let's put it that way. But just look at that view. The water down there, the mountains, the clouds. You can see what I mean by the jagged edges. Just before we transition there to the dashcam view. Or GoPro view. Oops, and the weather's just randomly changed. Active Sky Beta doing its best thing. And we've got the black textures again. There we go.
Climbing to flight level 230 Giant.
So 230 on the altitude now. And we'll soon be given clearance up to 350 and then 390. But back to Active Sky, you can see that the weather changes are pretty quick sometimes. But overall, I'm really impressed with the beta. So as you can see, we've got a recall. The problem's still there with the imbalance, but it's hardly even worth calling an imbalance. So I think it's safe to say we can ignore that. We can clear it. That's fine. So anyways, without further ado, I'm going to leave you guys with some cinematic shots on the way over to Edmonton. And I will catch up with you guys a little bit later on.
Passing 16,000.
Okay guys, so as you can see from the displays there and from EFB here, we are pretty close to the 150 mile radius ring. We're going to be landing on ILS runway 30, and we're going to be using the TETAG 2 star with, as you can see there, 19 knots of a headwind. Now I've got a funny feeling that's probably going to increase as well. We're going to initialise the descent a little bit early, just because we're at 390. That takes us to 380 to begin the descent. But I've already gone ahead and configured the rest of the aircraft. We've got radio set to 200. And now descending. And we've got the nav radio set up for landing, 109.10 at 300. And again, here on EFB, we've got the approach information there, showing the exact approach. We've got about 23 minutes left before we're due to land, and as you can see there, ILS 30 is selected. Not looking forward to the winds over there. It's going to be very, very windy. Let's just work out this. So flaps 30 we're going to use at 142 plus 5 obviously, which we'll do later. We'll just put that in here for now. 142. And I think auto brake 2 should be enough. It's a reasonably long runway. And we can arm the speed brake.
GTI8125, descent flight level 250.
Okay, so there we have 250 now, so the descent has properly begun. So without further ado, I will catch up with you guys when we're a little bit closer to the airport. I'll see you in a bit. Okay guys, so we're almost established on the localizer. You can see the diamond there on the PFD. Descending nicely. We've been asked to descend to 5,000. Speed's looking good. We're currently at flaps 20. 0153 Zulu. We've got a 26 knot, or a roundabouts, headwind at the moment. And it's a little bit variable. It does keep changing every now and then, every few minutes, every few seconds. But nevertheless, here comes 5,000 feet. Lovely views out of the window. Look at that horizon. Almost on par with the localizer there. Looking stable so far. Just hoping that I don't have to go around for the first time that I've had to go around in the 747 in a long time. But then again, this is the first flight I've done in the 747 for a long time, so we don't know. You never know. I have put the passenger signs on, even though we're in a cargo aircraft, but for any additional crew that may be on the aircraft, they need to know, obviously.
Giant 8125, descent to 5,000.
So it's telling us to descend to 5,000, but we're already at 5,000, so that's okay. And the altimeter is correct. One thing I do love about P3D version 5 is the enhanced atmospherics, or true sky. It really has changed. Look at that. Absolutely gorgeous. It really has changed the way that the simulator looks and feels. And it's made it a hell of a lot better, I think. So we've got auto brakes 2, the speed brake is armed, the passenger signs are on, landing lights are on, and the runway turn-offs. Everything is set up, apart from the gear. Flap 30 at 141, which is obviously 146, including the 5 knot consideration for the wind. Speaking of wind, it is 24 knots at the moment, right in our face. One thing I have noticed is the visibility isn't perfect, so just for the sake of it, I'm going to switch on the wing and logo lights. We don't have any AI traffic at the moment. Look at the effects off the lights. That looks amazing, like the glow coming off because of the sort of foggy conditions outside. But yeah, we don't have any AI traffic on at the moment because I can't seem to get Ultimate Traffic Live to work properly in P3D version 5. And I haven't got an old P3D version 4 installation to be able to drag and drop the files over.
Runway 30.
Giant 8125, slow to final approach speed, altimeter 30.06, clear to land on runway 30.
Okay, so we're cleared to land. I've gone for flaps 25 and gear down, but obviously it's been a while and I've done it in the wrong order, so the aircraft's shouting at me. But that should stop once the gear is fully extended. Just waiting for the nose gear to close. There we go. Look at the black textures. For some reason it takes a long time for them to load back in P3D version 5. And eventually I will get into the config and sort that out. But for now it's not really something that bothers me that much. Nevertheless, we're all set up. I'm going to leave the autopilot on as long as I possibly can. But look at that view. I'm going to leave it on for as long as I can because these winds are very unpredictable, and I don't fancy fighting them until we're right literally at the point where I can decide to go around and it's safe and we've got a stable approach. So flaps 25, we've got auto brake, speed brake, we've got gear down. I'm going to go to flaps 30. You can see those being extended. Absolutely amazing clouds. So we've got the runway in sight there ahead. We're bang on with the glide slope and the localizer. Looking pretty stable. Wind is still in the 20s. But I am confident, especially with it just being a headwind, a direct headwind, we should be okay. We are coming out of 5,000 feet, or approaching 4,000 feet now. Fuel quantity low, let's have a look at that. Well, actually we're okay, we've got some in the other tanks, everything's fine. I had a funny feeling we would start dipping into the reserve fuel. And that wind is getting a little bit variable now. A little bit turbulent, in fact, blowing us around a little bit. There's 1,000 feet, still looking stable. Still not going to disconnect the autopilot just yet. Not until I'm comfortable that we can manage this without a missed approach. So depending on the pappies, there we go, I'm going to disconnect, we're a little bit low, so I'm going to take manual control. I'd prefer to be high than low. Although I have just ballooned it a little bit. Let's try and counteract that. Back to 2 reds, 2 whites. Trying to keep it on profile a bit high. And the pappies don't really matter at this point.
60, 50, 40, 30, 20.
And quite a firm landing there, but nevertheless, centre line. Reversers. Decel. We'll take a look at the replay on that landing shortly. I'm going to take the next exit to the right.
Giant 812, station right, contact ground control on 121.7.
121.7, Giant 8125.
So let me just slow us down a little bit so that we can turn off here. Welcome everybody to Edmonton, even though there's no passengers on board. This is a cargo flight, but nevertheless, welcome, welcome, welcome. Bit of a rocky journey and a pretty hard landing if I don't say so myself, but nevertheless we're going to have a look at that on the replay actually. Let me just get over the hold short line here. For a moment I did think we could potentially have needed to do a go around, but luckily not. Just get over this line. And let's take a look at the replay of that landing, because it was quite a heavy landing, but I think it was still acceptable. So let's just take a look. Okay, so it did seem to be quite a tough landing, but not too tough. I think that would have been acceptable, considering the circumstances, and considering the fact this is the first time in a long time that I've flown the 747. But absolutely guaranteed the weather conditions did not help with that situation at all. But nevertheless, transponder to standby. Request taxi to parking.
8125 is cleared off the runway. Request taxi to parking.
Giant 8125. Taxi via Alpha Whiskey to Terminal 1. Parking position 7.
So Terminal 1, parking position 7. That is obviously going to be a cargo parking. Let me just bring that up on EFB. And we'll also request it on GSX. So parking. And 7. We don't need to follow me because we've got EFB. And it's to our right. So not too far away. So let's just sort out the MCP. Turn all this off. The flight directors, traffic and data, VORs. And we can make our way to the parking. Let me just turn all these off. Turn off the auto brakes. Turn off the landing lights and taxi lights on. Logo and wing can come off. And we'll also start the APU. We can turn the strobes off as well. Right, so parking brake is released and we can begin the taxi to the parking. So I'll catch up with you guys in just a few seconds when we get there. Right, okay, so it's just this left turn and this is the sort of cargo bay area. And we are right at the end, so we're following this taxiway round to the left here. Try not to go on the grass. That would really mess up this flight. I think we're going to be fine, we should be okay. Tiny, tiny bits of stutter. But I'm not too fussed because we're still getting basically mid-40s in terms of frames, so that's not bad at all. So here we go, so right at the end, number 7. Try not to accelerate too much. I know that the controls of the 747 have changed, as have the rest of the PMDG aircraft, so the taxiing is a little bit different now. Finally starting to get used to it. It is a little bit easier actually. I'm going to turn off the lights just so we don't blind people. And I'm going to begin that turn now. To the right. Maybe I turned a little bit too soon, but we're okay. Should be able to straighten it up. Look at that. Lovely, lovely view. Just slow down a little bit. And a little bit too soon on the brakes, but nevertheless, parking brake set. We can switch on the APU gens. Engines off. Look at that view. Lovely, lovely engine sounds. Welcome once again everybody to Edmonton. We can connect ground power. Or request it. We can go ahead and switch off the hydraulics. The fuel pumps can also be switched off. I'm going to go ahead and switch off the packs as well. We can request deboarding. Open up some doors. And GSX will be shouting at me in a minute, telling me to open them, even though I am doing, but it just takes a little bit of time for them to actually open. But that is it. If we look outside... Oops, wrong button. You can see the doors are still opening, so they are opening, it's just GSX. GSX is very impatient, but nevertheless, that is it. Welcome everybody for the final time to Edmonton with Atlas Air. It's been absolutely fantastic first flight back, first full flight back. Hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Subscribe if you're not subscribed already. You can now join the channel for added benefits. And yeah, leave a like if you like the video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.